Live from north of Boston, unless you're watching this later, and then not so live. It's me, Chris Brogan, with the Backpack Show. Look at this. This is my biological father, Steve Brogan, and his wife, Diane. Janice Simon returning after a long absence, but I am so glad to see you here. Welcome to the Backpack Show. Today's topics are whatever topics you come up with and what other topics that I have actually put out already. Let's get started. Backpack Show. It is the Backpack Show. Hey, Leslie. Hey, Chloe. Good to see everybody. Welcome on board. This is a solo episode. Carrie is somewhere off in, Europe or somewhere. But she'll be back soon. But thank you so much. Glad to have you here. I'm looking forward to having my co-host so that I can bounce things back and forth and ask all kinds of questions. So you're going to have to fill in and be my co-host today. Hi, Annette. We've got topics from all over. I'm going to start with the Barbie movie. I cannot get enough of talking about the Barbie movie. I liked it a lot. I thought that it was quite surprising. I don't know why I should be surprised. Greta Gerwig as a filmmaker is a very different person. For Mattel to have got on board with this, it was fabulous and amazing. And I can't begin to believe how well it's been doing. Opening weekend was 100-something million US, but 200-something globally. It is up almost to $500 million, 495 million as of right now. That's incredible numbers. But on top of that, by the way, the movie only cost 140 to make. It's incredible to me. Just seeing it was nuts. Hey, Carl, keep it down over there in Alexandria. It's probably hot there because it's been hot everywhere. July is officially the hottest month on record in the world. Holy cow. Carol says, I saw it last night with my daughter. She made me wear pink. I hate pink. Well, I am Knuff. That's all I can tell you about that. I was reading through some of the crossover marketing that they've had. The merchandise is blowing away the movie numbers, but they're not actually reporting it just yet. I think because they're just still raking it in. Gap has one. There's Bloomingdale's. There's Bell's Luggage. Superga, which I guess is a shoe brand. There is Hot Topic. Joybird. Burger King in, I think it was Brazil, has a gross pink sauce on it. There's Carrie. Hi, Carrie, in the comments. Aw. And then I will tell you my absolute favorite one. Hello to you. Good to see you, Ikra. One of my absolute favorite crossovers that I saw recently was the Heineken billboard that they put up. It's Heineken, so it just says Ken. It's all zoomed up on it. And then it just says, come on, let's go party. So I have a feeling that it's just crazy. Carol asked the question, do you have a moment of feeling like you were paying to watch a Mattel commercial and rebranding? No, but I do think that it is a really smart move. Work colleague of mine said this, and I can't stop thinking about it. They were like, think about this. You are going to sell so many Barbies now because now it means something different than what it meant from the 50s up until now. There will be ironic and not ironic purchases. I imagine there will be a bigger sale on Ken. I bet they'll re-release Alan, which is crazy to say out loud. And I think they will release some of those crazy Ken things like the something dojo or whatever. So I think that there's a Barbie-sance coming to go with this whole thing. It's incredible to me just because it's been so long since anyone's given a rat's about any particular movie. I think everyone's sick of superhero movies. I'm a superhero fan since 5 years old. Usually there's a pile of superheroes behind me. I'm looking at one across the way, but oh my gosh, it's getting harder and harder to get someone to care. Ikra points out, by the way, that in Pakistan it's humid as well. I love that because it is probably in Pakistan, it is probably like a gazillion degrees hotter than where I am right now. My daughter saw it and loved it. I'm great. I love that Mattel is willing to take their lumps and be the butt of some jokes. I totally agree. I think that that's the most exciting part for me was that Mattel was like, yep. Nope, sure, dish it out. Like that part where they said something about Barbie asked about the woman CEO at Mattel, and he was like, "Yeah, we had one. No, two, I think there was another," and it was just a great little commentary. Speaking of which, Gap has said goodbye to their last female CEO and now has two men running the Gap. It used to be that Gap was one of the companies that people could still point to and say, here's a big company with a woman CEO. Not so much anymore. So quite interesting. Janice points out Mattel is usually hardcore about their brand. I think that's the story, though, because I think when you are willing to like Pepsi did it in the dopiest of ways. Pepsi did that whole "Is Pepsi okay?" commercial, and they made it into like a big to do, but they still were trying to act like it wasn't the joke, right? And that's I think if you can lean into it, then you get a lot of better opportunity to make a win. So I found that. Listen, as we were talking about really hot summer, depending on your dining choices, boy, have I got one for you. Instead of a BLT, get ready for a BLP, a bacon, lettuce, and peach sandwich. Squirm all you want, but give it a try, especially if you grill the peaches before you put them on the sandwich. Bacon, lettuce, and peach. Carl asked the question that people who haven't seen it before want to know: how big is that chair? This, my friend, is a throne. This chair is 2 people worth, because Carrie has sat in this chair for an event for one of the backpack shows, but it is a 2 people throne kind of situation. So it is muy mucho big. So Ed says what everyone feels: bacon. Yes, bacon is bacon, lettuce, and peach. Give it a try. You're already kind of saying, I don't think so. Tomatoes a fruit, peach is a fruit. It's going to work. Hey, Dean, welcome. We could restart the show, but you wouldn't have missed a lot. That's not so much weird. Tomatoes a fruit. See, that's it. You're right on board with this one. Let's see. I'm going to run out of stuff really quick, but I will say, signs of the economy still being a problem, not that this could surprise anybody. McDonald's is even reporting that fewer and fewer people are ordering there, and that when they are, they're ordering on the value menu. So I don't know, you're probably not as much of a McDonald's goer as I am willing to admit, but I can tell you that their prices just kept going and going and going, and above inflation and all that. It was kind of nuts. So to me, it just means that they shouldn't be all that surprised. I would say that the interesting note there is that anyone would be surprised, kind of the opposite. You know what I mean? Leslie says, I would totally try that. And probably for you have like peaches out in your garden of many things. What do I know? Bacon makes everything better. I completely and utterly agree. I have been getting bacon from the craziest weird place that I didn't expect to think it was great. Our friends at Walmart, the Great Value thick cut bacon is coming in looking almost like a steak sized bacon, and it is delightful, and I'm here for it. So I'm looking to know some news, thoughts, and ideas from you as well. What kind of topics are you interested in? I will give you another one, that Google Bard. People are starting to finally say nice things about it. After a rather shaky launch, people are saying that it is really starting to get better and better. At the same time that people are reporting much more often that they think that ChatGPT is getting dumber. So it is crazy. Hey, Carrie, have a really good flight. Fly wobbly. Good luck over there. No peaches yet in the garden. Back to McDonald's for a second. Dean says, am I the only one who thinks that ordering on the app worsens the customer experience? I don't know. I, for whatever reason, haven't fallen prey to the McDonald's app. I just show up and wait in line like a lemming. Something about that experience. I was so happy to see validation on girl dinners. I don't know if I know what that one means. Janice, is there a McDonald's girl dinner? Or is that like when they do those super special whatever? I guess, by the way, the new default for X, formerly known as Twitter, is going to be dark mode, because Elon just says, face it, everything is better in dark mode. Being a dark mode kind of guy, I don't care about this storyline, but it is rather interesting that they're kind of pushing it even harder and making it so that it is a big to-do. Meanwhile, Threads is releasing a bunch of updates that people have wanted. It kind of goes with a lot of people's theory that with Threads, what was going to happen was that they would release kind of a MVP, a minimum viable product, and then people would come along and say, hey, we need some more features. And then all of a sudden, there's some features. So nobody is exactly surprised with that one. I have a crazy new thing to show you. So you've heard of the game Fortnite. You probably don't play Fortnite, but you've seen it, you know what it's about. I had reported on this a little while ago that they have switched over everything to the Unreal Engine 5, I think it was, or was it Unity? I forget. I think it's Unreal Engine 5. And in the experience, what they were doing was they were opening up a marketplace so that other devs could come and use all the Fortnite assets and create their own assets and then be able to make games that run kind of on the engine of Fortnite on top of the Unreal Engine and thus get like a lot of game dev stuff out of the way and start to make some experiences. So here's one of the first ones of these. This is called Moontopia. I'm going to give you the 30-second trailer here. Do, 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 do. It's also on the moon. It's a sci-fi kind of experience. You can see some of the Fortnite elements in there, like that little buggy is a very common Fortnite thing. But they put all these other pieces of equipment in there to make it their own game called Moontopia. I think it's just nuts. And the fact that it runs on the engine, the fact that these people are going to stand a chance to make some money on Fortnite, this is when you open up your stuff from an app to a platform. That's a super important thing to do. Big fans of cereal for dinner when the kids aren't home. I was always referred to it as adult Lunchables, as a singleton cooking is too much at times. Yeah, I find that whenever I cook all the time, and even so, I still accidentally cook for probably 3 people. Hey, but leftovers is my favorite food. Don't build content on rented land. Haven't we learned that yet? Well, Dean, it's funny you say that because in the SaaS world, my company made all of its money doing that. We worked with the Atlassian company. They opened up a way to do sales of extensible stuff to their platform, and our revenue is going up and to the right. So I'm going to say not always. So the difference being is that there's a built-in, baked-up rev share opportunity built right into it. So the kind of person who wants to come and build apps on that platform gets a chance to extend it and make it further. Basically, Facebook saw what Roblox was doing. Fortnite saw what Roblox was doing and said, "Oh my gosh, we could totally stand to do this," and it's going to be a revenue multiplier. I would say that the kind of people who can make an app like that using the Fortnite intellectual property are in jeopardy because they are at the mercy of those. So one of the things that we've done to not be at the mercy at my company is that some of our apps work cross-platform. So we have, for instance, an app called Dashboard Hub. It also works on Monday.com, one of our other partners. And so we're going to span that to all the other kinds of places that we work in the ecosystem. It's interesting in the game world though, because it's, they've done lots of rev share processes in the past, just not so deeply. So, hey, look at that. Elizabeth is here. It feels like old home day. We had Carl back. We have Janice that we haven't seen in a long time. Elizabeth actually made it at the time. Vinster said that he hasn't seen this channel in a long time. I'm live every Friday, whether or not you're here, my friend. So come on by any old time. Glad to have you. What other news are you tracking? I'm curious to get to yours before I pull up another process, but I will say that there's some interesting storylines out there in the world to talk about. So I can bring up some of mine. I can tell you that I don't know if you've ever heard of the stock market thing that happened with the GameStop stock, which happened through some Reddit people, and it changed the finance industry and really thrashed a whole bunch of people's fortunes and that sort of a thing. There are some documentaries and dramatic films of this now. Well, their newest target is Tupperware. And I have to tell you, it is crazy. It's done 3 times the money. It's a 3-fold upgrade since people started targeting Tupperware the way they did GameStop back in the day. It is showing that a whole mass of humans can pile onto any particular stock and really trip algorithms up everywhere they go. Janice always has meetings at the same time as the show. And then Elizabeth says hummus and veggies are a staple along with jerky for avoiding cooking in way too hot Texas. Yeah, that was my second meal of the day yesterday was hummus with a whole bunch of celery. Oh my gosh, celery is so hilarious to eat because it just sounds like a whole lot of things happening all at once. Carl says Liberia replaces Panama as the world's largest flag. Oh, interesting. That is indeed news. Finster, I was streaming myself playing Forza on another channel, but I stopped because I'm on vacation. Good for you. I that makes me wonder if you're gonna go see the movie, about the, Gran Turismo, because that's interesting, especially where they've updated it, to the PS5 for the gaming nerds out there. But this is a real story, based on a real story, based on a racing team decided, "Let's see if we can take people who are really, really, really good at video game racing and plop them into the real cars and see what happens." And so this movie is interesting for that reason alone, but there's some extra cool stuff in it too. Good people in it too. I think David Harbour, I think Orlando Bloom. I can't remember the main guy's character, so that'll be sort of fun. And it says, looking forward to one of your future posts talking about revenue sharing models that are working and why. Let me take a second and go back on that for a second because I appreciate you asking. There's the company that I work for now has really changed my mind on some of this because I felt a lot like what Dean felt, and there's a piece in, I think it's the impact equation that Julian Smith wrote when he and I were writing the book together, and the piece said basically, would you rather be a room or a hallway? And the idea was that room would be a destination kind of a thing, like an app, like the Adobe Creative Suite is sort of a destination, or a hallway, something that connects other things together and brings even more value. And for the longest time, I don't feel like I understood the implications of that question. And I always was saying, I would rather be a room. That's crazy. Who would want to be a hallway? But with revenue share opportunities, with platforms that can allow you to extend on them, what they're building is the opportunity for many more people to build an ecosystem around the core product. And what we're seeing already is that there are lots of companies out there trying to scramble to make marketplaces happen and aren't exactly winning at it. Zoom is trying and it's going really slow for them. I think Miro is getting into that as well. There are a lot of technology organizations who are starting to say, oh, maybe we should let other people play with our toys as well. But then that requires a whole bunch of other additional thinking through things like APIs. So the opportunity to have more people work on one particular platform means you've got to open up more little windows and hooks so people can take the tools and use them their way. Vince says, I just flew to the other side of the world from Florida to the Philippines. So you were saying, let me see, is there any place out on the earth hotter than Florida? I know, the Philippines. Janice, the biggest news at work has been managing burnout. I think the last 3 years has come crashing in. Janice, are you a return to office kind of workplace, or are you a one of those scenarios where it's hybrid? Our company's always been permanently hybrid. It's always, you can be where you want to be. It's mostly remote, I would say, but a lot of our dev shops work together. So I'm just curious what your setup is there. Dean says Mattel is now pushing forward on screenplays for all of its properties based on the success of Barbie. Aside from Rock'em Sock'em Robots, it's going to be a beautiful disaster of a trend in Hollywood. Yeah, Hollywood does a lot of sort of proof point of one kind of a thing. They do sample sizes where one movie did great. So I would say that it's an interesting time as far as that goes. When Hollywood goes, wait, what worked in this movie? You always see the worst attempts at it, especially right now where the strike is still ongoing. Janice says, I'm remote. Most of us are remote. What do you think is causing and leading to that burnout then? Is it a matter of people feeling the need to get together? Is it a thing of people feeling like there's too many priorities? Because I know that one thing that's happened is that with the economic downturn, especially in the tech sector, hiring has been pulled back quite a lot, including in my organization. And I would say that one thing to realize is that we're having to do the work of more people, and I'm sure that really leads to a lot of people feeling kind of yucky. Curious to know about the rest of you who have actual day job type jobs. Are you working remotely, or where are you going? I'm just looking through the news again to see what else I have. Headed by AI language models, Google's physical robots are getting smarter. Well, that makes no sense. Looking for news. I'm singing looking for a new song. I've been singing so much. Talk about when you work remote a lot, you sing a lot. Loss of connection, being short-staffed, saying yes to too much. Yeah, so it's that kind of burnout can happen in a physical office just as well. Yes, the connection makes it tricky because you don't get that water cooler kind of moment. And to your point, being in the single world like that, it's definitely a scenario where you can't get your social situation rolling, right? Like you're in your house, you feel like you're on a spaceport or something. The being short staffed and also saying yes to too much, I mean, obviously those go together. It's a tricky time. One of the things that I do to coach people at my organization when they're feeling that sort of way is, I first off, it depends whether or not there's actual deadline work, this has to ship by the 14th no matter what kind of thing. If there isn't, what I try to do is remind people that the work's going to be there tomorrow. It's really tricky because it's a situation where it just looks like so much overwhelming work, but you just work on it. You work on it parsed out because that's the way it's going to have to be. Sometimes we get a little overwhelmed because we see it all stacked and then we don't get the opportunity to realize that we can only work on so much. I've coached people to have coffee meetups in real life. I love that you sing to yourself a lot. I'm practically making a musical out of my days here lately. I don't know. I wonder if that's a thing about working alone or just, I spend a lot of time by myself. So, let's see. What else do I see? It's really interesting as I'm looking through my news stories. It is, it's a whole bunch of, um, random news. Like there's no real cohesive something out there. I also just read that a massive ship carrying over 3,000 vehicles is burning off the coast of the Netherlands, and it's spurring concerns over fire risks from electric vehicles. One of the things I was going to say about this is that I did notice that there are a massive amount of articles that point people towards returning to work. And as you notice, there are a few interesting things that make this more interesting. I feel like there is a small conspiracy afoot. There's a lot of empty business real estate, and there's a lot of business real estate add-on companies that are having problems because people aren't buying big, fat, juicy offices anymore. At the same time, one of the interesting experiences that I'm seeing is that these return to work articles all kind of make it as like, see, psychology tells you you shouldn't work by yourself. And I sense the hand on it. So let's see. Leslie says, I still work in the office every day. It has its moments. I think there's some benefits to working together. I think that nothing quite beats that experience of, ad hoc meetings. Nothing beats that kind of moment where you can crack a whiteboard and start talking about something together. And we even sell an app about whiteboards, and I can tell you that it's great, but it doesn't sell the same kind of thing. Dean says you can only see one, Barbie Oppenheimer or Mission Impossible. Which is it? Well, I saw Barbie and I saw Mission Impossible. I did not see Oppenheimer yet. I will see it on a big screen too, because it's a big old movie. It would be Barbie. Oppenheimer, like, I know what it's getting at, and I think that's kind of great, and I would like to watch it. And I think Christopher Nolan's a great filmmaker. I was not super in love with Mission Impossible. I think the stunts were fine. I think it was just like the script was so expository. You might as well have cracked open Wikipedia. It was just like, so first to do this, we have to do these three things. Okay, let's talk about these things. Okay, all right. Now, did you say that the enemy was doing this sort of thing? Like all the dialogue was like, tell not show. I was not pleased. And I think that the Tom Cruise stunt was interesting, but I already saw that on YouTube way before I had to go to the movie. So I was like, why did I have to do that? Elizabeth says, I love coffee meetups. And Marion says, always good to see you pop up live in my feed. I'm always glad to be here in your feed, Marion. How are you? What are you working on? Who have you interviewed that's been fun lately? Leslie says, I like daily human interactions, but then there are those days you close your door. That's the thing, is when I was working in offices and sort of made to work at offices, I had a problem where I was always kind of interrupted during kind of grind time. And I ended up starting to put up tape and stuff like that over my cubicle, and then put little things hanging down from it. Like, please don't come in. I'm working on something. Don't ask me any questions. Come back to me later. And it was funny how many people ignored it, thinking I was being funny. And I was like, I am going to buy a taser at some point because I need you to not be in my office. And just didn't exactly work out. Foodflation is getting worse and worse. Evidently, cocoa prices have surged to a 12-year high right after orange juice just smashed records. Now, orange juice had been down so low on pricing for a while, but foodflation just keeps growing and growing. No pun intended. Kind of a mess. So let me see. Frontier is the worst US airline in 2023, and Spirit isn't far behind, according to a recent study of the top 10 airlines that are in last place. I don't like any of the airlines anymore. I try to fly as little as possible now, and it's, I think, a deal. I think that we're going to see even less of that. And yes, they're coming for your chocolate, Janice. Get ready for a lot more synthetic chocolate and stuff like milk and white chocolate being popular. Ford CEO says that Tesla is having a Model T moment. It's Elon Musk's next big test. That's pointing to the fact that he's starting to kind of pull back on some of the customization and saying he's being asked to mass produce them. And a lot of the bigger car companies, especially Ford, were saying things about Tesla like, "Oh, it's great now while you're sort of a bespoke car company, but once you start making big cars, you're going to have some trouble." So that's interesting to note. I think that's a strange story. Marion has no interviews this week, but focused on becoming the best director of content I can be. That sounds great. I think it's wonderful. It makes me ask you the question, Marion, what kind of content do you think makes one the best director? We're going to wrap up in about 4 minutes or less, by the way. Leslie says, my daughter and her boyfriend are currently stuck in Charlotte trying to get to Texas for tonight. Totally agree with the airline comment. Yeah. Carrie, my co-host, is, like I said, somewhere in Europe, and they were stuck for, I think, 3+ hours past when the delayed flight time was supposed to be. So they were like, your flight's delayed. And they said it'll be this time now. And then it was 3 hours over that. So it's just not a fun time out there. Let me see what other news I have. Nonprofit theaters are in crisis. I think all theaters are in crisis, unless I mean like areas of operation. I don't know what that term means. 6 ways that AI could change politics. Wow, there is a story I'm never going to go. See you later. It's good to see you. More hard questions. Yeah. Means that mole enchiladas are going to get pricey. Yeah, no question about it. We're going to have to switch to putting Kit Kats in them. We are hoping they get out today. Flight delayed twice last night, and they finally canceled. New flight this morning was also delayed. Fingers crossed. Weather is impacting that a bit too. A lot of raging thunderstorms because of this, earth-shattering hot month season. No global warming though. That's not real. Don't even ask about it. I made a 1 minute movie this week about my travel experience. Great service. Buffoons behind me though. Oh, see, as AI gets better, because AI can wipe out buffoons in photos. As soon as they can do it better in videos, we're going to have a better and / worse time in our lives, because we trust our eyes more than we wish we did, and we will have some interesting experiences. Deep fakes live and breathe, but for the sake of what you just said, Annette, I could see a very good advantage to having a video erasing AI take out the people that you don't think should be in the experience. Sony's big first PlayStation 5 sale brings steep price drops to a whole bunch of Europe and Asian customers. So interesting that the console wars still reign on. It's nuts to me that this is still a very newsworthy experience. Like the cola wars aren't covered as much anymore. There are several other industries where that doesn't exactly experience. Dean Report said there was an earthquake in Seattle yesterday. Turns out it was people dancing at Taylor Swift concert. I'm serious. I laughed thinking you were joking, and now I am terrified. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm going to roll it out. I mean, hey, we had a show, didn't we? Seemed like some stuff. There were some thoughts. I don't even know if there's a guest next week, but we get back to some guests pretty soon. Stuck with me.